following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of this weekend's BYU football and the new look Big 12 Conference. First and 12 is sponsored by Macy's Grocery Store. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Mitch Harper coming to you from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Alex Kirry holding it down in Salt Lake City. It was a wild week in Big 12 football, and I got to say, Stillwater was one of my favorite towns in the Big 12 travels this year. I kind of hold a soft spot for Morgantown. I thought that was a kind of a unique place, but Stillwater, man, the passion out here for Oklahoma State, they're just kind of like a chip on the shoulder mentality with this program because Oklahoma just absorbs all probably the oxygen in this state when it comes to college football. But Oklahoma State, they've got a loyal following out here, and it's been kind of fun to just see all the signage, all the branding around these businesses centered around Oklahoma State, and of course, as we talked about, Eskimo Joe's is elite. It's legit.
Elite.
So
it's elite fries.
I loved it, man. I was ready to get another plate. Like I was ready. It was awesome. So it's been a lot of fun being out here in Stillwater.
Couple days after Thanksgiving, you embarrass yourself again. Just like keep it going. No, but I was okay. Everyone's glad you had a fun time in Stillwater and in Morgantown. But what's the worst place you went to this year? I mean, let's get honest here, dude.
The worst place? I'm going to say Austin. I really was unimpressed with Austin. Maybe it's because I had such a high standard, I thought in my head of, Texas is just going to feel so rich and glamorous and the stadium's just going to be so fancy. Maybe it's just thoughts I had in my head that I just kind of expected because when you hear Texas, you always just think big, glitzy, glamorous, money flowing everywhere. And there were like all these 50 cables dangling in the press box. I mean, go watch Hans Olsen's Instagram video. It's insane. The amount of wires that are just dangling everywhere inside that press box. That's just deep in the weeds stuff for just media dorks to enjoy that sort of stuff. But I thought the stadium was kind of underwhelming too.
Did they still do the canes for the after game meal though for Texas? So they did.
They didn't. They didn't do an after game meal. No.
You know what? They are getting. It's the Portland of the South for a reason. All right, it's a little trashy. All right, it's my birth city, but I don't try to claim it very often. All right, let's kick things off here. Let's jump in one of our favorite segments of the entire season of First and 12. We have things kind of set here. It's our Big 12 Power Rankings. Let's jump in right here.
The Big 12 Power Rankings Big Board. A weekly rank of all 12 programs from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
Number one, pretty self-explanatory. For the Big 12 Power Rankings this week, it's the Texas Longhorns, 11-1 on the season. They lived up to it, Alex. They almost went unscathed throughout the season. Their lone setback was to rival Oklahoma. The Longhorns truly are back, I think.
Well, according to Sark, they are. But, they still have a little bit of meat on that bone. They got to win the Big 12 championship game because they said that this year would be a failure if they don't win the Big 12 championship game, not get to it. They're going to go to Arlington, and the number 2 team in our power rankings is going to be there with them. The Oklahoma State Cowboys, with the win over BYU in double overtime, sent them to Arlington for that Big 12 championship game. Good for them. We had them at the bottom at one point of these rankings, and that was pretty hard to do. It was usually between Baylor, Cincinnati, those types of teams, but Oklahoma State at the beginning of the year after they had lost to USA, they found themselves at the very bottom of our power rankings. Congrats, they're at number 2 to end things out here, at least for the regular season.
Number 3, the Oklahoma Sooners. Good year for Oklahoma, bouncing back from the 6-7 campaign a season ago, but still not quite good enough to get back to the Big 12 title game, which is what Oklahoma expects. And, year 2 of Brent Venables, there was progress, but I think still there's a feeling of this defense should be a lot farther along than where they're at, giving up 45 over the weekend. Not the greatest look to end the regular season. No,
and Oklahoma, in a year that you beat Texas in the Red River rivalry, you better make that a special season. And to totally just not even make it back to the Big 12 championship game, that's a bummer. I mean, Oklahoma had everything in front of them, and they end up losing 3 games, and Texas loses that one game to them. And, man, it was a weird season for the Sooners. But, yeah, a better season certainly than last year. But the standard at Oklahoma is to just, at the very least, be right there with Texas. And you certainly don't want to be you don't want to lose Bedlam, which they did, and you don't want to be behind Oklahoma State and not get into the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State, congrats to the Cyclones. Matt Campbell just did an amazing job this year of being able to get his guys dialed up for the season. And I was impressed by what the Cyclones did. They ended 7-5, but they had a better league record than almost everybody else, except for those top three. And so Iowa State, I thought that they're trending up too. That's the other thing about them. We put them at 4 because I think they're trending up. And even though they're 7-5 team, they are really, really tough. My goodness, I was looking at this earlier. I don't know what ended up being the final kind of rush totals for Abu Sama. 276. You said these running backs were elite, man. 276 yards for Abu Sama, including 2 70-yarders on the game. But, man, 276 yards on a day on 16 carries. Not bad for that guy. But, yeah, they're number 4 in our rankings right now, and I think they deserve it.
Definitely. Number 5, West Virginia. And then number 6, Kansas State, the defending Big 12 champs. Different feel of 8-4 seasons for both these teams. West Virginia, I think, has got to be pretty happy. Kansas State, coming off a Big 12 championship year, it feels like a little bit of a step back, but still, I think K-State's a very good football team. They just had a tough schedule.
They did, and, they should have won that game against Texas. That comeback was short, but, West Virginia, like you said, tale of two different 8-4 teams. The Mountaineers overperforming Kansas State, a bit of a bummer for them because I think people had them in that Big 12 championship game again maybe this year. Another one that's a little bit of a bummer, but they're number 7 in the rankings, which is higher than what they ended up or what we had them in the preseason, is the Kansas Jayhawks. An 8-win season, first one since 2008 for Lance Leipold and his guys. I really liked what the Jayhawks did this year. They have a lot to build on too for the future.
I kind of get the sense too that how Leipold, his contract extension sounds like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Kyle Whittingham, where there's these clauses in place where they have to build these renovations or these improvements to their facilities, or else he moves on. I mean, I just think that he's bought into Kansas. I don't think he's a little bit older coach. I think Lance Leipold's here to stay for Kansas, and that might be a reason to bump him a little bit higher if he does stay. But on the field product, there was kind of some highs and lows in an injury-plagued season for the Jayhawks. Number 8, Texas Tech, far below preseason expectations. They were the trendy preseason top 25 team around the Big 12. They rounded into form where they had a 6-6 season, but still the gap between them and number 1, 50 points, very sizable between them and Texas, and that was a step-back year for Joey McGuire. They do go to the postseason, though, which at least they got that.
Yeah, and, I like Joey McGuire a lot, and so, I want him to be there, and I want him to succeed because I think he's a good dude, and I like him as one of those head coaches in the Big 12 going forward. UCF, number 9, they're the only team, as we mentioned last hour, of the newcomers who are going to end up in a bowl game in the postseason here, and I wouldn't say overperforming because I think we all, Mitch, had them, UCF, as the top of the newcomers, and they certainly still perform that way, and they had some bright spots and some really ugly moments this year. But UCF, number 9 in the power rankings here at the final one of the regular season. Number 10, TCU. Could you imagine a double-digit ranking for the Horned Frogs at the end of this thing? I mean, I don't think we all assumed they were going to be going anywhere except for, Pat, they weren't going to go to the Big 12 championship game maybe even, but we had them kind of right there in that top 4. It's like you're in the national championship last year. You have to do a lot to get out of there, and they ended up, of course, not even making a bowl this year, which is a bad company to be in because there were not very good teams who made. 9 teams in the conference did. TCU did not. That's not a good place to be for the Horned Frogs.
Shocking turn of events, I thought, for TCU because with you, I thought they were going to be a top.
And Sonny Dykes, 11, I like him. He's a good coach. I hope he does well again, but, man, that's an ominous second year for him.
Number 11, the BYU Cougars. I think we give them a little bit of benefit to what they did the past 2 weeks, exceeding some low expectations, and also the bottom of this league is pretty bad. And, they beat a team in the bottom. So we'll go with BYU at 11. Look, this doesn't feel anything spectacular for BYU. I think a lot of Cougar fans coming out of this season feel like there was more to be had. They should have got to a bowl game, but hey, it's just a reminder of Power 5 football takes time. You don't just step into this league, and it's interesting too, Alex. Remember when these 4 teams were added 2 years ago, I think the narrative was in 2021 was these 4 teams might step in and be the top teams from the get-go, because that was before Baylor emerged and Oklahoma State, and then TCU had their run, and K-State. It was just feeling like Texas and Oklahoma run the league. These newcomers are just going to step in and run the roost. Not so fast at all. Like, that just hasn't been the case, far from it.
Yeah. Houston, number 12, Cincinnati, 13, and bad Baylor. Now, you said it, too, at number 14. Baylor ends up at 14 on the bottom of the barrel there. But you said it. I mean, and I said it last hour, and I'll kind of stand by it. BYU is in that category of bad teams this year in the Big 12. I mean, they were a 2-7 team in their first year in the Big 12. I mean, that is crazy. I know their Power 5 teams they played this year, they had a rough schedule. I mean, obviously, playing Power 5 teams is not easy, and they go 3-7 against Power 5 teams this year. That is a crazy thought, right? To go, oh, they're going to go in there, and they'll be a 5-win team 7 weeks into the season. And then they end up with only 3 Power 5 wins out of the 10 Power 5 games that they played this year.
Especially considering 2 years ago they were 6-1 against P5s. That's a big step back in 2 years in the ramp up phase between knowing you were going to go to the Big 12 and then to now. That's a big step back for sure.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We have our sound roundup around the corner. Listen to Steve Sarkisian talk about his Texas Longhorns and Mike Gundy, what he thought about this game where his team showing some resilience and getting back and coming back to beat BYU in double overtime. Stay right here. More to go. It is First and 12, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone and KSL News Radio every Sunday. So stay right here with us. More to go around the corner.
Read all the stories about BYU sports no one else has heard. Go to KSLSports.com for exclusive columns by BYU insider Mitch Harper. That's KSLSports.com.
Did you hear that, Mitch? They said your name. You're famous, man. Mitch Harper. Yeah. Read his byline right there at KSLSports.com. And, of course, you can hear me on JJ and Alex every afternoon on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We still have a lot to break down. Boy, this is going to be an interesting week. There's a lot to break down. There's going to be a lot still to ask in terms of questions that are going to be for this BYU program. And, interesting to see what's going to happen over the next few weeks with this program. And as BYU goes out and hits the road and starts recruiting and they don't have a bowl game to prep for, Mitch, it's going to be wild. It's going to be kind of a crazy time for them. By the way, First and 12 is always brought to you by Macy's. Macy's Grocery Store, the best and most fresh fruits and local farms, bringing you all sorts of good stuff. Macy's, happy shopping. Macy's, proud sponsors of our First and 12 program this year, and we appreciate their support. Mitch, let's get into our one of our favorite moments of the week. We get to hear some from a lot of people with Southern accents, which makes our show sound even more important when we talk about football. So let's get into it here. It's our Sound Roundup.
Big 12 Sound Roundup.
Check 1, 2.
The best bites, cheap shots, and excuses from Saturday's post-game news conferences.
Hey, this thing on? Turn me up. Let's go. Big 12 Sound Roundup. Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian. He's getting turned up, maybe. No, maybe not. I don't know. Steve Sarkisian enjoying, though, the win as the Longhorns are going to the Big 12 championship game once again.
Well, I mean, I think it's very gratifying. You know, we came here, and I accepted this job. I didn't, and I've told you guys this before, but I think this is important. I didn't accept this job just to be a head coach again. You know, I felt like at that point in my career, I knew I would be one again. But I took this job because I felt like we could be champions here, and we could win championships year after year and whatever that would look like, but at least put ourselves in position to do that. And obviously the road was hard and it was long. The first year was very difficult. Last year we played some good football. We had some ups and downs, and we got into this night last year coming out beating Baylor, but we put our destiny in somebody else's hands, and it didn't happen. We didn't get into the Big 12 championship game last year because of our own doing earlier in the season. And this year, this whole idea that, we wanted to leave no doubt, and we wanted to control our own destiny. And naturally, when we stubbed our toe early in October, I told you guys and I told the team, the first thing I put up every Monday morning for about the next week's game, this is a Big 12 championship game. And we had to go 1 week at a time. We couldn't afford to stub our toe again. We couldn't afford to stub our toe tonight. I mean, it took us all the way until the end. And so now, as I told the team Monday morning when I put it up, this is a Big 12 championship game. Now it actually is. Now we're finally here. And so to be 11-1 at a place like this is kind of where I felt like we should be, And I recognize at the University of Texas there's high expectations and there's a high standard of what excellence looks like. But our internal expectations, my internal expectations, are that and probably above. And that's what we came here to do. And now we've put ourselves in position to go do it. And like I said, it feels great. It's wonderful, but the work's not done.
There's Sark. BYU fans can at least feel good about one BYU quarterback getting it done this year. You were waiting on that joke all season, right? So here we are with it. So Sark and the Longhorns going to go to the Big 12 championship game. Good for them. I love how he sounds so calm in his press conferences. I'm like, this guy will go after you. You better watch out. Speaking of guys that'll go after you, and he does not pull punches, Mike Gundy, head football coach for Oklahoma State. What his team did to get that win over BYU, kind of some adversity, and then what they found out about themselves a little bit as a team yesterday.
Hard on ourselves to get to where we want to go, but that was a really good win for our team. Very proud of him. I told him in the locker room that starting to sound like a broken record now after last week, and then this game is. I think it's pretty fair to say that the situation we were in and behind, and they did a good job. They had a lot of different things. They could put all their chips out, no matter what their hand was. They could have a poor hand and put them all out. They did the right thing. They were try to win at all costs. Makes it difficult. We were concerned about that. We talked about them having several different fakes and things in special teams, and we were right. We just didn't. We couldn't defend them the way we should have. But guys kept playing. Coaches did a great job of adjusting at halftime. Players grabbed the information, took it out there. It was that one wasn't an easy one to come back when you have to throw a few passes. It was raining pretty good now out there, and we were able to throw and catch. So I told them I was proud of them. It was a good culture win for us. They're learning how to dig themselves out of a hole, not point fingers at each other. Coaches don't point fingers at each other. They absorb information on the sideline, make changes, take it back out on the field, and go play.
That's Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy. I got to say, Alex, I love his kind of informal style where he's just got a cup in the hand. He'll walk away from the mic and just start having a one-on-one conversation.
I love how he almost forgets. He almost forgets who he was playing, too. He goes, yeah, the team out there, there's what were they? They were blue, right? Anyway, they played a pretty good game, but we didn't really pay attention to that. We were doing our own thing out there. And you know what? Like this raspy voice, though, really does let me get into my Mike Gundy a little bit.
It does.
I could do it all day. No, but that's a guy who we sort of dissed on Mike Gundy at the beginning of the year, right? We were like, this guy's act is over, right? We were like, this guy, he's this guy who won't embrace the portal. He's this guy who won't embrace NIL. He acts like he's better than college football. He acts like he's better than everybody else he's interviewing. He gave us the cold shoulder at Big 12 Media Day, and I thought, what a total jerk this dude is. And, in the end, he's got his own style, and he did exactly what Mike Gundy always does. He surprises people. He outcoaches people, and that's exactly what he did against BYU yesterday, and that's why they find themselves in the Big 12 championship game coming up on the 2nd. So, impressive.
They've won a lot of games, Oklahoma State, that probably no one would have ever expected them to win. You think about the growth of that program since he took over in 2005, walking around the campus. This town doesn't have much, Alex, but, man, they've got some big money facilities on campus. You walk around the town and think, how does this place have this much money pumped into their facilities? It's pretty special. It's a byproduct of the belief that Mike Gundy instilled in that football program, and, of course, the pockets of Boone Pickens, the late Boone Pickens. But still, Mike Gundy got them to believe that they could win at a high level, and they're doing it once again after a season that was just look to be down and out. They were once the 14th team in our Big 12 power rankings, for goodness sake. They proved us wrong, and now they're going to Arlington. This league, man, it's like what the people in the NBA say, this league, when they tweet out on X, this league, man, that's the Big 12. There is no nights off in the Big 12.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, the Pac-12's had quite a year, right? But the Big 12 is competitive, man. I mean, it's like you can set your watch by a lot of the games in the SEC and in the Big 10. You cannot do that with the Big 12. And so, case in point, BYU almost beating Oklahoma and Oklahoma State over the past 2 weeks. And they've certainly had upsets across the conference all season long. So, all right, let's jump in here. We'll take another break. We'll come back. Our program is always brought to you by Macy's. Happy shopping. We'll come back. We've got our Four Corners whip around. Yeah, the new teams that are adding to the conference. What a weird weekend for the University of Utah and Colorado. It's like, who wants to play this game? You? Not you? Well, okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. More to go around the corner. It's 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. It's KSL News Radio, and it's 1st and 12. Join us.
The Four Corners Whip Around. We check on future Big 12 opponents and rivals from the Four Corners.
Welcome back into 1st and 12. It's time to take a look around the Four Corners, the upcoming Big 12 members joining in 2024. We've been keeping a pulse all football season of what these teams have been up to. And 1st and 12 is brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store. Macy's, get the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's, happy shopping. We saw 2 games between these Four Corner teams. They were rivalry games. I guess Utah, Colorado. Is that still a rivalry going into the Big 12? Who knows?
Look, I've always told you, I mean, no one really embraced it, but I tried to make it the Rocky Mountain Oyster Cup, and nobody did it. So,
That's
I mean, look,
right, the Rocky Mountain Oyster.
The Rocky Mountain Oyster Cup. And I'll tell you what, it will never be a rivalry game ever again. Colorado's like looking around going, who wants to be our rival? It's like Texas Tech, I guess we will. I don't know. Whatever you want, man, when they get into the Big 12. I will tell you, though, that Colorado-Utah game, I've never seen
win 23-17, by the way.
Yeah.
Utes get it done.
They get it done, 23-17. I've never seen a team, Utah, I've never seen a team this beaten down by injuries. I know we say that in the injury bug and blah, blah, blah. It is crazy, Mitch, the amount of people that they've been out. And then to have the flu bug hit them this week. Cal Whittingham talked about it. I got him text earlier this week from a person that I know that's pretty close to the program, and he goes, dude, I think you might see 5th-string quarterback Luke Batari this week. And I went, I'm ignoring this guy the rest of the time because I'm not going to fall for any of this crap. And this was like on a Wednesday. This was on Wednesday, dude. They're like, yeah, Luke Batari's probably going to start. And I'm like, I'm going to unfollow this cat. Like, I'm all, hey, lose my phone number. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you. And I was like, I'm not going to say that on the air, right? And then by the time Friday rolled around, we were just all going with the reports. Not just that. They even said Bryson Barnes not going to play. Luke Batari, and then that Nate Johnson has likely left the program. Now, I don't think he's quit the program like people were saying. I think that he also got sick this week but he ghosted us on our weekly get together we usually have with him, and he didn't show up for it, and we were bummed about it. But maybe he'll come on this week before he totally goes out of town. I can't imagine that he's going to be. I mean, he's going to hit the portal, right? I mean, those are the reports. So you're going through all those things. Plus, I think it was 11 guys that are now out for the season injury-wise. That's crazy. That is a weird thing to put up with. And so I think 8-4 and beating Colorado is about as good of an ending as a season you could get with Kyle Whittingham, even if it was a dog of a game to watch. It's like Kyle Whittingham knew, I can put a 5th-string quarterback out there. He'll run for a couple touchdowns. He'll be the poor man's Cam Rising with that long hair. He'll run in a couple times, a couple scores for himself, and Luke Batari gets a career win after his first career start. So good for him. That's a memory to have for the rest of your life, man.
Colorado closes the season out on a 6-game skid. Shedeur Sanders did not play. Ryan Stubb, he was the quarterback for the Buffs. This Colorado team, they made progress this year as a program, but far cry from the 3-1 start that they had, and the talk of the nation. There's a lot of work to be done. I'm very curious to see how big of a flip, Dion, Coach Prime tries to take on once again with this roster. Does he maintain anyone, or is he just going to flip it and overhaul it again? I'm very curious to see how Colorado operates this offseason because
he's
just
not going to have a choice. He's not going to have a choice, right? I mean, you're going to have a bunch of dudes leave again. That's what's going to happen.
I feel like
their
that's
culture
what's
there
going
is
to be
garbage. That culture is terrible. And you know what? He brought in some flash, and it lasted about 2 seconds. But it'll be crazy to see if they can try to turn something back around again. What's wild is I think you're going to see 1 million people hit the transfer portal for BYU as well, and they're going to have to really build a team the way they probably don't want to, which is out of a lot more transfer portal guys than they probably were planning on.
I agree, and I think that BYU is going to be in a spot where they ideally would like to have some roster retention, but at the same time, you got to get results, and that's what kind of being in a conference like the Big 12, you see your glaring weaknesses, and you can have a chance to address them potentially in the portal. A team that's trending up and had an outside shot to get to the Pac-12 title game if Washington State would have taken down Washington. That's Arizona. Man, what a strong finish by Jed Fish in this program. They take down Arizona State in the Territorial Cup, 59-23. Wildcats finished the season 8-4. What a year for Jed Fish. 2 years ago, Alex, this was a program when they faced BYU in Vegas. They were just coming off a winless season. They were rock bottom in college football. This is an incredible turn of events for the Wildcats.
My favorite thing. So did you see Noah Fafita's numbers on this game?
Oh,
Arizona
huge.
record, 30 for 41 on the day, 527 yards passing, 5 touchdowns through the air. My favorite thing is when people go, "Can't Kalani get the Polynesian pipeline going and get Noah Fafita up here to Provo?" I'm like, you guys are insane. You guys are insane. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be a part of your world. Please forget about it. But I will tell you, people look at that kind of stuff and they go, but there's that jealous part of you that goes, how do they bring a freshman in who was the backup and he throws for 527 yards and basically he's going to be by the end of it maybe one of the better quarterbacks in the history of Arizona. I mean, really, that's what you're going to see. And you're going to see this Arizona team next year fighting for a chance to be in that Big 12 championship game their first year in the conference.
Off the top of my head, I mean, you think Arizona quarterbacks, well, you got Ortiz Jenkins, that flip at Montlake. You got you've got Willie Tuitama, who faced BYU. Oh, my goodness. And they had, obviously, Nick Foles. But, yes, I mean, Noah Fafita is a freshman. And that dude, his first real action was against Washington. And we thought in the moment, what the heck's wrong with Washington? They're barely beating Arizona? No, like Noah Fafita was a stud, and they almost took down USC. They should have done that. But Noah Fafita's almost got 2,000 yards in basically 8 games. He's been just brilliant. And you look at the best Big 12 quarterbacks for 2024, I might put him at the top. Knee-jerk reaction here in the moment. I might have him at a minimum, like no lower than 3. I don't think of many quarterbacks in this league that are better than him. I might put him at number 1 next to, and Cam Rising's up there too.
Bro, you forgot all-time Arizona great Khalil Tate. So I think you should apologize to the audience.
SI cover Khalil Tate.
Talk about a flop, dude. My heavens. All right. There's your Four Corners whip around. Man,
see, Arizona fans, we know your program. Ortiz Jenkins, Montlake flip. We know it. We're ready. We're in midseason form, baby.
Give me some Khalil Tate. Hey, did Jed Fish retain Kevin Sumlin? Is he still around? Get that guy coaching again. My heavens.
That's right.
Think about how bad that program was even just 3 or 4 years ago, and here they are now. We'll come back. When we return, we've got ourselves a little bit. We usually have a look ahead on the schedule for the Big 12. The look ahead is this Big 12 championship game. Texas, Oklahoma State will have a early look at what this one can add up to be between the Cowboys and the Longhorns. Stay right here with us. It is First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio every Sunday, and also on KSL or on the KSL Sports Zone, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We'll come back. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, back right around the corner. Stay with us.
Today's just the start of the Big 12 and Power 5 talk to come. Listen to JJ and Alex Monday on your drive home. Afternoons from 3 to 6 on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week on the KSL Sports Zone. You want to stay tuned to all the talk all day long across the station. JJ and Alex, of course, in the afternoon, where Jeremiah Jensen and I break all these things down. We get together, Mitch, JJ and I, after a long weekend of sports, and we don't talk about anything until that very moment that the mics crack on Monday. We'll kind of get through and sort of go, let's go this direction, let's go this direction. But it's going to be pure reaction tomorrow on JJ and Alex, so it's going to be fun. And then to be able to tune into Cougar Nation right after our show on KSL News Radio to hear you and Matt take those what I'm assuming is going to be tearful phone calls from BYU fans after the season ender, 40-34 in double overtime. If you would have said that's going to be your overtime game is down in Stillwater this year, a double overtime thriller, I would have said no way, but here we are. So BYU, what they're looking at the rest of this year, before we get into what BYU can expect going into the offseason, Mitch, let's jump in first and talk about our game of the week, which is, of course, the Big 12 championship game. We're here. Can you believe standing at Jerry World on the field felt like 10 minutes ago, right, during Big 12 Media Day? I mean, can you believe – we say this every year. It's insane to think how quickly the season can go by. But literally, we were talking about this season and breaking down the preseason, and that was still – that was middle of the summer, right? I mean, that wasn't even that close to the football season itself. And yet, here we are, the Big 12 championship game featuring the Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. It's not a shock that those two teams could be in the championship game, but these are two teams who have very, very different trajectories this year. You had Texas, who was like all or nothing this year, and then you had Oklahoma State, who had such a bad start that people wrote them off. And I don't know what to expect in this game. Quinn Ewers, I don't know how healthy he is, but he looked really, really good against Texas Tech in that 57-7 win on Friday. But Oklahoma State, don't count them out. They do not have a quarterback. That's the only problem, is that they do not have a quarterback. They have Ollie Gordon, and that's their offense. But I'm worried a little bit about everything else that is Oklahoma State. But they show up big for these games. They did it against Oklahoma, and they beat them in the Bedlam game. I don't know what to think about this championship game, though. Who do you think has the edge in this one?
I think Texas has the slight edge, but I got to say, I think that the Big 12 has got to be excited to have this matchup, because what a boom for the new Big 12 it could be if Oklahoma State sends Texas with an L. I think that would just be kind of like Oklahoma State's playing on behalf of the Legacy 8. Where it's like all those programs, and then, the newcomers to a lesser degree, but this is kind of a moment to send out Texas with a loss. But I do think Texas has got the edge here. And, man, I am so fascinated to see Texas's defensive line and their defense, third nationally in rush defense through games completed through Saturday, going up against Ollie Gordon. That is going to be just must see, because I think Oklahoma State, they come into this game with nothing to lose. No one expected them to be in this spot. There's really no pressure on them. They're
Sure.
not going to be a New Year's Six at-large team. So if you lose, it's a bummer, sure, because you want to get that title, but there is no pressure on the Cowboys. Whereas I think Texas, they've historically been the team where they'll just have a dud of a performance. They haven't done that this year. I think that Texas will perform well, but, man, I would not count out Ollie Gordon having a big game, and I think he'll have some success on the ground. I think it's going to come down to the costly mistakes, the takeaways. Quinn Ewers against Oklahoma in the Red River, he had moments where he completes 20 of 22 pass attempts, but then he had like a 5-pass stretch where he had 2 in the dirt, and then he had a pick, and he had mistakes galore. And that's where you just wonder. He'll give you those brief moments where he's going to make mistakes. And can Oklahoma State capitalize and seize that brief window of momentum to capture that from Quinn Ewers? So I think it's going to be a heck of a game. In we're underselling the main story. Nelly's going to be performing, baby. I have to stop it on my Air Force One. Let's go. I'm ready. Let's get. I'm going to have the Band-Aid under my cheek right now.
I heard Matt Baiamonte was not a huge fan of this, and I was like, "What a wet blanket Matt is." He's like, maybe in the early 2000s.
He's in his Tesla.
I know.
This new Bleak 182 is awesome. Yeah, like give me a break. Give me some Nelly, baby.
Oh my goodness,
I'm all over that.
My kid goes,
no matter what I do, all I think about is you.
I'm telling you,
even
my kid
when
was
you
like,
were my boo.
My kid was like, I thought Nelly got shot. And I was like, he may have. I don't know. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what his past has been like.
Kids are blurring Nelly with Biggie Smalls.
I don't know. It's crazy. So, by the way, So Jonathan Brooks, obviously the torn ACL, the running back who replaced Bijan Robinson in Texas this year, huge loss for them. But Jaden Blue, out of the blue, 10 carries, 121 yards the other night. Look, anybody who's at Texas, if you're a running back on that depth chart, you're a 4-star guy, and you're an athlete. You're probably the best player in the state of Texas or Oklahoma or Arkansas or Louisiana. So these guys are good. The thing is that Oklahoma State, like you said, has nothing to lose. Quinn Ewers is very efficient. What he's not is throwing for 400 yards, but he will absolutely tear you apart. And he is, we were talking about the inaccuracies of Jake Retzlaff. Quinn Ewers is super accurate. Like, that guy has a really, really good arm, but he's also very accurate. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes, and the mistakes that he makes are usually few and far between, and they don't do as much to kill his team. I mean, they absolutely blew up that Texas Tech on Friday, and it was just to show everybody else, like, hey, that was cute. Conference play has been fun, but we got to get to the big game here, and they did. They ran for 302. They passed for 225. A very balanced attack, and they are a team that you don't want to mess with. But Ollie Gordon is the best running back in the country, and we saw him yesterday, and we saw how good of a back he is against BYU, and I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Texas is not really great at stopping the run this year. They're middle of the pack when it comes to stopping the run in the Big 12. So we'll see how they do. But I'm excited for this one. And it's nice, too, because they didn't face off against one another during the regular season. They didn't, right?
No, they didn't.
Right. And so this is nice because they haven't seen one another. There's not a rematch situation with this. And so it's going to be kind of a fresh look at both of these teams in the championship game.
Fingers crossed, too, Alex. We get the 2024 Big 12 football schedule with the dates. Brett Yormark said to me back in October it was going to come out late November, early December, so fingers crossed there. So that's something to maybe look forward to on that front. But then also in this game, the player of the game will get a WWE belt. So It's going to be just a top-tier event for the Big 12 championship game in Arlington. We can't wait. And as you teased it earlier this hour, we will have a full season recap show next Sunday, and then we will also give out power rankings for what the 16-team Big 12 stacks up next week. So there's going to be the season.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some fighting between mommy and daddy next week about these rankings, man. We're gonna get into it because we're going to have some issues at the top, I think.
Yes.
And really, you're going to have to, and at the bottom too. We're going to be looking around, going, "Oh no, you're the worst. No, you're the worst." So. And we'll see where the teams locally here will stack up as well. So
been a fun year,
Mitch,
though,
it's been
Alex.
fun this year.
We've had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And kudos to Eric, our producer. This isn't the last one, of course, but Eric always does a phenomenal job in getting this show ready every week. And so we appreciate all the work that Eric Cabrera does there at KSL News Radio. So for Mitch and for Eric, I'm Alex. We'll be back again next week for another edition of First and 12. Don't miss Cougar Nation tomorrow night, 6 to 7 on KSL News Radio. Don't miss JJ and Alex, 3 to 6 on the KSL Sports Zone. So for those guys, I'm Alex. Like I said, we'll talk to you next time, everybody.